Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is just going to be a real quick overview of what I call the product launch process. And I really want everyone to come away with the incentive to develop that process. And I'll help you with some tools soon enough on that side. But I want to go over what it looks like when you actually have a solid product launch process in place. So these are just 4 points that I'm going to go over here, but what a thriving product launch process looks like. Now, try not to be too trite here, but if you're not thriving in your product launch process, you're barely just surviving. Your competitors, all they have to do is improve their launch process, and the whole experience for your customers will be dramatically different. So I won't belabor that point too much here today, but I will come back to it soon enough. So one of the key aspects to the launch process that you want to improve is the quality. And you know that you do a lot of, say, quality assurance checks for bugs and issues in the software itself, but you really need to make sure that you have some quality assurance for the overall product itself. How someone downloads it, what it looks like during installation, how it performs the specific functions and features that you're advertising, how the documentation and support knowledge base even reflect the new product. All of those things and more are part of this quality bucket. Stability is the second point that I want you to think about. When you have predictable release dates, it helps your customers immensely. A lot of customers that I've worked with have 6 to 12 month delays or it takes 6 to 12 months for them to even try out a new release. Try to get them to do a beta release, that's even more challenging just because they have their own hardware infrastructure provisioning challenges, systems administration challenges, and things like that. They need to know as far ahead as possible when you're going to upgrade. If you can't have that for them, and that's why they're often asking for what the roadmap is, then you really miss out. You don't look like a predictable company with stable releases. Instead, you look like you're somewhat flying by the seat of your pants, and they'll always think you're just waiting to hold back a release for some other negative reason. But by having that predictability and that stability built into your release process, you can kind of shortcut some of that. And not to mention, as customer support is trained up, they need to be knowledgeable about the issues that are going to come with this launch. So you need to make sure they're trained up. That'll feed into that stability and reassurance for the customer. Clarity is really all about messaging. Do you use a communication plan? Do you have consistent messaging kind of frameworks that you use to map out all the kinds of tidbits and bullet points and high level value propositions? Do you have all those things nailed down? They need to be nailed down early on, and then they need to be used further downstream in the communications plan. I'll dig more into that in another episode. Relevancy is another key attribute for a launch process. Have you created relevant collateral that reflects the new features and the problem areas that you're solving for your customers? They need to know that those problems are being solved. And do you really solicit feedback early on in the process to make sure that you're on track with the kind of outputs and products and new features that your customers really want? If you don't, then you risk not being as relevant to your customers in this release, and they might not even care about it. So what I've done, those are just 4 points to give you a kind of a high level overview of what a good product launch process will need to consider. So I've put out a survey, and there's 4 simple questions. Does your organization have a clearly structured launch process? Does your team or you have a clearly defined role in the process? How successful do you feel your product launches are? That's really qualitative, but I'm really interested in your feedback. And who's responsible for ensuring the product launch process is effective, updated, and delivered? I would love to hear your feedback on this. You can go directly to this link, survey.onemitchell.co, and you can enter in your info there. So far, I tested it out on a small audience and didn't get very good results. I mean, a few no's in the answers. I'm sure there's some out there that have better experience, but I'd like to kind of test my assumptions. You can go to my company page on LinkedIn, check it out, and I'll be updating more with launch process checklists for you in the near future. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.